If you're the most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I got and biggest insights that I took away as I reflected on the conversation that I had with Jaspreet Dua, JD as we know him as. And JD and I had a wonderful conversation that really explored his journey. He's done a number of different things and it's been quite unique out in the world. And with that, we explored how he did it, what's part of his magic sauce. And also at this time in his life, how might what got him here no longer get him to where he wants to go. So we explore that through coaching. Toward the end of the conversation, I invite you to listen to the edge as we both step on our edge and explore things from a different perspective. And the idea here, more than anything else, is to see how can we come in and challenge our perspectives, to see our world from a different place, and to really bring an inquisitive mind toward all that we do. If you're the most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room. How true is that statement to you right now? Where are you the most interesting person? Where do you go to be inspired by others, to be challenged by others, to have people who've done things that actually surprise you? My favorite sentence right now, it's actually, I call it a questclamation. My favorite questclamation is, "You can do that?" I'll tell you right now, I'm not the most interesting person in those rooms. Where are you going where you can honestly be brought up to your next level, almost pulled forward because someone around you is drawing something else out of you? I'd love for you to participate in this conversation. I'd love for you to be curious in this conversation. Allow curiosity to flow through you as you go through. And then come in and participate in the conversation. Let us know, what were you curious about? What were you curious, not about us in our conversation, but what were you curious about for yourself? What areas did this make you think about things differently? And what areas might you choose to explore for yourself as you go along? This conversation is living. It's a living, breathing conversation. So no matter when you watch this, no matter when you listen to this, or however you choose to participate in it, we'd love to continue the conversation with you. So head over to the Facebook group. It's over at enjoyment.com/community, or you can find us on Facebook at it's Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks, or it might be Pioneers, Outliers, and Mavericks, depending on when you watch this video. But just find us, come be a part of the conversation, help elevate us here, and don't worry about when you join the conversation. These conversations never die, and your thoughts are important. The way you see the world is important, and we want to see you. So with that here, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to JD and to invite you to participate in this conversation with us. Hello there, everyone. Nemo Ashong here, and welcome to another installment of Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks. This is a podcast where Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks come to share the outer journey, the accomplishments that we all get a chance to see, but really share the inner journey that they went on underneath. And we get a chance to explore that through each guest that we have. But beyond that, honestly, I'll be very honest with you. Part of this year is for me to model what being an outlier, a pioneer, and a maverick looks like to me in the way that I manifest it out in the world. And to be honest, I can't see this being all that pioneering or that mavericky. We're just doing another interview podcast. So we're going to step onto my edge, what feels edgy for me. And we're really making this a podcast around coaching, a coaching podcast where the people that come on here, we're not just going to talk about the successes and failures that they've had in the past. We're going to be right here with us in the moment, because as a pioneer, as an outlier, as a maverick, we're constantly climbing mountains where all that's ahead of us is freshly laid snow. There are no footsteps in front of us. There's no other path that we can follow. We're in our own wilderness where we're the ones that are cutting down all the trees and the bushes and all that. And we have to craft our own path. So rather than looking at this and saying, let's go backwards and have that conversation, we're allowing ourselves to really look ahead and see what comes up from there. I invite you, as you listen, don't just listen, as you experience this conversation, I invite you to experience this not for information. I promise you, you cannot live our lives. So instead, look for insight. Look for the questions that came up. Listen for the bits of changes in tone and timbre and what it's like to actually have a deep conversation and to really stay with it. We're being intentional throughout this conversation, which might mean that there are times where we are in tension. That's deliberate. We're creating something different here. We have no idea how it's going to go. And at the same time, we know that that's just kind of how life is for us out here. And we can navigate it regardless. So I say all that as a way of just orienting us into this conversation. I am incredibly excited for this particular conversation because we're here with Jaspreet. Jaspreet, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to everyone, to let us know a little bit about you and your story. But I also want to just start off here by sharing a little bit about how I see you. Would you mind if that comes
No,
on?
not at all. Not at all. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaspreet. I go by JD. That's easier for people to pronounce, I guess. I like going by JD. So over to you, Nemo.
All right, cool. So you prefer JD for the rest of the conversation?
Of course.
All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead and do that.
It's got a good ring to it. Hey, JD. Hey, JD.
I like it. I like it. And JD, let me just check really quickly on one thing here. Your sound is coming through a little bit low. It might be on my end, but is there anything with your microphone that might be able to increase the sound?
Let me check. Why don't you go ahead? Let me try and increasing the volume.
And I'll do the same on my end here. Hey, can you say something now?
Hey, is it better?
Yeah, it's better. It might have just been me, so we're good though. All right, cool. And Outliers, we're going to keep this in because this is the real. I don't want to sugarcoat this. I don't want this to come off overly polished because our world is not overly polished. We're figuring it out in the real time. So if I'm going to model it, let's just model it. So JD, it's great to have you on here. I want to share really quickly who you are to me, and then then I'll give you a chance to share a little bit about your story with everyone, and then we'll just jump in and have some fun. Sound like a plan to you?
Perfect.
All right, cool. So let me really sink into this here. JD, it brings me great joy to be able to talk to you here today and to have you as one of the pioneers on this podcast because we had a chance to meet just a few weeks ago, and during our conversation, you struck me as someone who not only is who fully embodies who you are, who's able to wear that unapologetically, both inside and out. I'm still remembering that sharp suit that you were in, but is also able to do it in a way that is incredibly welcoming and open-hearted to both yourself and to others. I think the emphasis on the yourself is an important part for me because you can be what I get about you is that you've had a unique journey and that there are things about you that are quite unique. And throughout that process, you've been able to be open about it in terms of your own relationship with it. And it's something that honestly inspires me. I'm excited to share more of who you are, share more of what you've done, and also to be here in a place of service for you because you inspire me. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, definitely. So I've shared a little bit of why I'm so grateful that you're on this conversation here. Why don't you let us know a little bit about you, some of the things that you've done, some of the things that you're doing, and we'll start off our conversation that way.
Well, I'm a normal 37-year-old guy, I guess, except I realized very, very early in my life, and by very early, I mean when I was doing my graduation, that I was not leading a normal life. I was actually in Singapore, where we are right now, doing my undergraduate course when my mom got diagnosed with cancer. And as a family, we had to make a decision. Do we continue paying for my education here, or do I leave this, move back, conserve resources, and start all over again back in India, where my mom and dad were placed. I chose the latter, so I left my course after a year. It sounds kind of funny. If I think about it, because all my classmates now are, Singapore citizens and all that kind of stuff, and they have bragging rights, I guess, to a certain level. But I do not regret that one bit, because what I experienced through that decision has probably made me the way I am right now. So I saw my mom go through almost 11 years of chemotherapy, and we've seen, ups and downs, and it was just the four of us in the family who were there together. So I guess that really brought me close to my dad, which is one of the biggest gifts that I guess I could have gotten in this life. Me and my father were never very close. He was a very typical military dictatorial person, I guess, if I could call it that. Do this at this time, do this at this time, and so on and so forth. And I guess that brought about so much of discipline in my life, where I realized that, life is just so much more than getting into a good college, getting on with a good job, earning money and having fun. And I discovered a very different side of me. I got into philanthropy, I guess, very, very early in my life. I was only 22 or 23 when I started counseling cancer patients, and just having a chat with their relatives, telling them about my experience and what we went through with my mom, because it was very, very new to us, and if we could help and ease a little bit of their pain. And that sort of continued with me even till date. I'll get to that a little later. But more importantly, it made me realize that the journey of life is not as simple as what one expects. When you get on with it, when you're 15 or 16 and are really ready to go, you say, yes, I need to get into a good college. I need to ace my SATs. Let's do this. Let's get a good job. And we are set. We can have fun. We can travel the world and, move around with women, drive fancy cars, eat fancy food, so on and so forth. It's so much more than that. My journey has not been conventional. So just to put things into context, the typical Indian journey today is a bachelor's degree, followed by a master's degree, followed by a atypical job with either a big FMCG firm or a big bank, or so on and so forth. You're on mute, Nemo.
You said like a big FMCG firm. What is that?
FMCG would be, the Coca-Colas and the Nestle's, or one of these guys, fast-moving consumer goods.
Thank you.
So that was that's an atypical journey for an Indian boy, and that's what parents are proud of, that our children are settled and so on and so forth. That's the definition of being settled back home. My journey was not like that. My journey, so for the firstly, my main objective was, all right, let's try and bring in some money into the house, because things were tight. My father was in the Air Force, and government salaries only pay so much. So I got into a job. So a big negative, no masters there. So suddenly in the whole, the social strata, you're a graduate, and why aren't you doing your MBA? Why aren't you doing your masters? Why aren't you an engineer? All that sort of stuff started happening. I went in for a master's much later in my life. This was, I think, 2007 when I went in, and I did it with a bank. My journey up until then has always been very different. So like I said, I didn't get into the banks. I didn't get into these Nestle's and Coca-Colas. I got into companies like Bose. Quite frankly, I didn't even know Bose had an office in India until the day I was actually going to the golf course, and I saw this recruitment banner outside, and I said, "Oh, hang on a second, what's going on here?" And I shit you not, Nemo, I was in a t-shirt and khaki pants, right? What you typically go to play golf. I walk in there, so I said, "Are you guys hiring?" And I got this blank look from the HR person's face. was saying, is that how you come dressed to an interview? I said, no, all I asked you is, are you hiring and what are you hiring for? So, anyway, that conversation.
Well, really quickly here, I just want to slow down a little bit on that there, because that says something right there. First, I love this. Wow, there's an audacity to it, which is wonderful, which is just like, but at the same time, it's not, it feels that it's like serendipity came, the opportunity was available, and you walked into it. You wasn't like, let me go put on my best face. You're just like, this is it. like you're getting it. And I just want to explore. Tell me more about that.
To be very honest, I didn't know what kind of a setup they had in India. It was one of those aspirational brands, right? When you grow up, and this is back in, when was it? 2006, 2005? Bose was this really aspirational brand. If you had Bose, you had arrived, right? It's the big name in speakers, the big name in headphones, and so on and so forth. So I did not know to what extent they had their establishment. So I just walked in asking this person, I said, hi, do you work for them? Are you in HR? She said, yes. And I could see her looking at me up and down, all funny, saying, what's up with this guy? And I said, I was just crossing this area. I saw this banner. What are you hiring for? If I can, be honest. So she looks at me, she says, what do you do? I said, well, I think exactly what I said. I said, I do not necessarily sell, but I love to think, which is why I ask you, what are you hiring for? She said, well, we have one position open in marketing. And well, conversation after conversation, and 4 months down the line, I was joining Bose as somebody who'd been hired to sort of look specifically into launching their e-commerce in India. So, and that was a bold move in any case, because Bose was an expensive product. Credit card frauds and credit card limits in those days back in India did not allow most people to buy an expensive product online. But this was the task. They're saying, let's set up an online shop. Let's try sell things online. And let's see what else we can come up with in the meantime. So anyway,
do you mind really quickly here, because I want to capture something that I think I'm hearing here. If I'm getting you right here,
yeah,
your day was like this. Hey, let's go play golf. Okay, let me grab my t-shirt and khakis, and you're out on the golf course, and you see a banner, and I
was actually driving to the golf course. So remember the urgency in the situation there. I was just crossing this. What was it? It was a Naval Public School in Chanakyapuri. It's an area in Delhi. And I saw this recruitment fair with the Bose logo there. I said, hang on a second. Bose is hiring? I didn't even know they had an office. Yeah. So that's what
it's really interesting. When you share this here, what comes up for me is my journey started out with me being an actuary, and one day I was driving. I had missed all the internships because I just didn't know. I didn't know that everyone else was applying for internships. So I had missed it, and I had come home to visit my family, and I saw a State Farm agent's office. And I was like, well, State Farm, they do insurance. Actuaries are in insurance. Let me see if I can get an internship there. As I was driving to the mall, I just pulled into that parking lot, talked to the person at the front, and he's like, this is an agency. We don't have any actuaries here. We're selling things here. But I like who you're being. I like the fact that you're someone that will walk up here. Like, our organization could use someone like you. There's a place down the street, and that I got an internship within 2 weeks from there. And so I'd love to explore from your part here, just because there are a lot of times where I feel like it feels like we need to have everything lined up beforehand. Or let me say this, the conventional way of doing things suggests that you need to have everything lined up beforehand. You need to have a plan of where you're going. You need to have done all the research and all that stuff there. And it's not to say that during that 4 months that didn't take place, but what I'm getting from you is you were on your way to golf. You saw it. You decided to take action in that moment. And they said, what do you do? And you say, to be honest, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it was that simple. I'm still friends with my boss from those days, and we generally end up kidding about this. She loves to pull my leg. She's saying, "Do you realize that you landed up there in a t-shirt?" And I get a call from the HR person saying, "This guy just randomly came up in a t-shirt and brown khakis saying he wants a job. He seems interesting. Do you want to meet him?" And Like they say, the rest was history. I was,
And it's that part of history that I don't want to like slide over, right?
yeah,
Because I think that this is the places where, like, if I'm thinking about this here, it's like, wait a minute, you can do that. That's what comes in my mind, right? And like, from that element there, where it's like, you didn't, because you were you actually got the call there. This guy seems interesting. It's like, and that was enough to move the conversation forward. And I think that
yeah.
sometimes I want to slow things down as we go through, because I know you have a very rich experience, but just to also call out these elements where it might seem like it's happening like randomly, and might seem like it's luck, but like the reason I keep calling out the fact that you turn into that parking lot and so on, it's like you created this opportunity for luck to meet you there. So tell me
Funny
about
enough,
that. Yeah.
every single job that I've gotten after that has been through these incredibly random things, right? From sending a random message to someone on Twitter to meeting somebody in a polo match and striking a conversation over a glass of wine, and that person said, you seem very interesting. How about we have a conversation about this? And I have an idea that I'd like to run by you. Every single job that I had after Bose has been through that. I've honestly not gone through a headhunter. I have not gone through, LinkedIn or one of these search boards. It's always been a very chance happening. So I guess I was lucky in a
Yeah.
way that that opportunity sort of presented itself at the right time, and I was able to express myself. But even more lucky that the person I was talking to was able to recognize where I was coming from and why I was being who I was or talking the way that I was.
So can I explore that a little bit here, because this is something that I think is pretty magical. You've just laid out at least three different instances where you were just living life, and next thing you know,
Cool.
four different instances where you were simply living life, and you got an opportunity. And I think that the thing I want to slow down in here is to like explore what is luck in this case. Like, I do believe luck does play a role in things,
Yeah.
but I don't think, for me, I don't think it gets credit for 100% of the effort in there, right?
Well, so you're describing luck as the effort side of things. I'm
Yeah.
describing luck as being lucky enough to be present in the moment.
Tell
I
me more
could
about
have
that.
chosen to be present somewhere else. I could have chosen not to have gone to that polo match or not to go play golf that day. But I chose to be present in the moment where I decided, yes, I want to go see see this specific event. And that's what I term as luck.
So
I could
let's
have
so
been
let's
anywhere, right?
Yeah, but there's, like, when you say that, there's certain things. This is fun for me. There's certain things in there that I actually feel like there's three distinct things that you're saying in that one, be present in the moment, right? So there's be present in the moment, which is like to be physically in that moment, to be in the polo mat, to like have sent the message, to be present like physically there. Then there's an element that's like to be present. And I'll be really curious about, because I am really curious about who you were being during these times that made someone say, actually, we just met, but I think that it'd be really interesting to have this kind of a conversation. Or, hey, let's meet up for coffee. Like, because a lot of people send tweets. It doesn't result in different job opportunities. A lot of people
Yeah.
watch polo matches. They watch, cricket matches. They watch football matches, American and European football. But these things don't come to life. So there's this element about being present that's also there, and also in the moment, which is like, in my mind, you saw the opportunity come. I'm thinking about you driving. You saw the opportunity come, and you saw the banner, and in that moment, you made the decision to go and to show up. So I think there's I would love to like understand a little bit here and about like who you are being in those moments that allow for these opportunities to come up, because like I myself have experienced this. Like I like to say serendipity loves me.
Yeah.
Serendipity loves me. But there's also something about how I'm being that creates those moments that says there's something different, there's something interesting, there's something about this person that either I want to be there more in this person's presence, or I feel like this person might have something to offer to me or to what I'm building. So honestly, what you're describing here is like, this is the outlying principle to me, like, and there's something that you're doing that's different than most others that takes chance encounters and
Yeah.
turns them into amazing opportunities. So with that as a kind of a context, if you had to go and say like, look, if you had to go and say like, if you had to break down what is going on that makes luck follow you, that makes luck a part of your team, right? What are you doing that creates that?
Okay, so let me rephrase. When I say I am lucky, um, first of all, what I was doing in all these encounters was what I normally do, just being inquisitive, right? That's one. Second, when it comes to so when you talk about this Bose Institute, it was just purely me being inquisitive. I didn't know they existed. When you talk about the polo match, and I got two jobs from being at different polo matches. It was just me being me. Typically, when you were watching polo and there's an end of what's called a chakar, which is essentially a timeout, so to speak, you generally mix around, mingle around, and talk to people. And the mere fact that you're present, people are generally more open to at least smile and have a polite conversation with you. So it was just a polite conversation. It got starting that, hey, how are you? What do you do? This yada yada yada. Oh, that's interesting. Do you like it? I said, yes, I do. I would, love to do something else. And it was just one of those smooth flowing conversations. So it wasn't that I was doing anything special. It was just me being me, present in the moment of, I guess, in a way, what was expected of me, but doing it in my own flair. That's one. Two, having the audience that kind of recognized me for myself and not really categorizing me in, typically what I feel, and me, we've had this conversation before. We both love talking to people, and invariably the whole question of stereotyping someone comes in. So when you look at, okay, this is the structure, this is how this guy looks, this is how he must be, and that's because that's the easy way out for your audience. You just stare at the person and you have a mental image or a mental framework of that person without even getting to know that person. So I guess when I say I was lucky because the audience that I was addressing did not stereotype me. So they actually gave me the opportunity of listening to me maybe 2 minutes more than normal people and saying, this guy perhaps is different. So
Yeah. I really appreciate you spending time here. And look, like, there are other things that we can talk about, but I think it's important that we do spend some time understanding this here, because it's the gold. It's the part that most people just skip over. And it's
yep.
like, but this is the actual thing. You've done this 4 times over. I'm sure that if we talk to you about any one of your jobs that you're in, launching e-commerce in India, all the other things that you've done, even when you were telling us about how you're a volunteer and helping people and helping cancer survivors throughout the,
Yep.
like, you're being present in the moment, and you're being you, and it's working. It's working for you. So I want to just kind of call out a couple things that I heard based on what you said that creates these opportunities here. One, the overarching thing is that it's you being you, right? So that one comes through first and foremost. You're like, I'm not in these situations. I'm not trying to say, how am I supposed to be in this and for this person. I'm not trying to say, oh, how can I come off professional or put myself in the best light, or like, what is everyone else doing? You're like, I'm just going to be me, and this is the next natural thing here, right? So I heard that there was an element of like remaining true to yourself in that moment.
Yeah, because I certainly feel that even if you kind of fudge your way through your first meeting, your real self is going to come out at some point or the other, right? And I've seen that with people that I've hired over the past. When you try and put your best foot forward in an interview. It may be a good thing, but it's not necessarily the right thing, because eventually, when you're in the day-to-day rut of a job, you will tend to let your guard down at some point, and then suddenly, you're at the stage of saying, I did not know this about this guy.
Yeah.
How can he be so absent-minded? Or, how can he not have some basic patience? He came across as somebody who meditates a lot in the interview, and I see him losing his cool all the time in the job. What's going on here? So listen, it can work for a lot of people. I know friends, and it can work, and I call them, and we discussed this 95.5%, if you remember when.
So for anyone that's listening, why don't you remind them what we're talking about here?
Well, let me recollect exactly what I said first. But essentially, what you and me were talking about, and correct me, feel free to jump in here, was that if we meet 100 people in our lives, 95% of those people are obnoxious, or they have this really strong defense mechanism in place where they're trying very hard to not open up with you, not come out and help you, or just have this stiff upper lip sort of situation. Whereas there's only that 5% who actually not only open up, but also take one step forward in asking you if there's something wrong and how they can help. And do you remember this conversation?
Yeah. I think, and like we'll use different words, but I think to me, it's like there are, most people in the world have, the way I look at it is, most people in the world have their masks, has the way that they want to be interpreted. They have the way that they choose to present themselves in the world, whether it's them or not, whether it makes them happy or not, they'll do that. And there's a very small percentage, let's say the 5% here, that are willing to actually go forth in the world as them. And and because of that, like, they're also people who are willing to like find out more about you, to be curious and bring that in there to see how they can bring their what makes them unique to the table to help support you. Like, does that feel right in terms of like what we were capturing as like the general core of that part of the conversation?
More or less, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, more or less.
So let me do this here. I'm going to pull out, because I think we're on similar pages. I wanted to call out this year mainly for the benefit of anyone else that's listening. That because one of my gifts is being able to like to hear the things that aren't being said, and to also pull out and like read between the lines on some of these elements here, right? So I heard 4 things from when you shared your story there, and I don't know, there might be some background noise that's coming up in here. I just want to just acknowledge that it's there. I'm going to keep moving because there's value in this conversation, but. The things that I heard were, you're going to be you, and you're going to come forth and make sure that who you are is able to be seen. All right. And that's just part of it. The second thing that I heard is that you were inquisitive. You were curious. You weren't trying to be interesting. Instead, you were being interested,
Yeah.
And from that perspective there, it almost allows you to be in any kind of situation, to continue to explore, to continue to be curious. And that to me is a sign of the 5% right there, from this conversation here, because most people are trying to build up their persona in front of someone else versus being able to give other people the space to build theirs own. I can see you thinking, I'm curious what's on your mind.
And you remember, you commented on the pink color that I was wearing. Mm-hmm. And you said, dude, what's up with the pink color? And you said the sharp suit, and it had pink stripes in it. And I said, listen, this is me. Why do you need to get stuck in the black, blue, and gray rut all the time? Yeah. Your contribution to your work is as good or as limited to what's inside here, right? It doesn't need to be what you're wearing. So I'm still wearing a pink colored t-shirt because I love it. That's me. I like wearing bright colors, and it makes me a happier person. So this is what we discussed, that you can still do what you have to do or what's expected of you by still being yourself. You don't need to change yourself to really do what is expected of you out of a job. And this kind of brought us, if you remember, to this whole conversation about this diversity, and we want people who are free thinkers, and we want people who are out of the box thinkers, but we want them to do what we do in our organization, and we want them to follow the set of rules in the organization. So that's very contradicting to each other in that sense, that if you do bring in people who are different, and you do bring in who are people who are extremely diverse in whether they're, whether it's their thought process or whether they're the way they are going to be different. So accept them for being different, and don't try and push them and say, oh, just because you don't fit in the mold, in our organization mold, I'm sorry, things are not going to work out. So
Yeah, so let's explore that there. I feel just for continuity, I'm just going to just go really quickly over the other two things I said four, and I don't want to like leave people like what's the last two. But let's explore this part here, and then also take a look like with what's going forward for you. So I think the last two things. So we said you were being you. You were coming from a place of being inquisitive. You had an audience that recognized you. And I think the other part of it for me is that you allowed that audience to recognize you. You allowed them to see there's something different here rather than hiding that there. And then, the fourth thing that came up for me that was really in between all this thing is like someone asked you at some point, like, what do you do? And your response was, this is what I do, but I really like to be doing something else. Like there was some element of that in there. And the fourth thing to me is like, you knew what you wanted and you shared it, right? Like, and giving people a chance to be able to take it to that next level. I think a lot of times we like, this is not to say it's the thing that works for everyone, but honestly, JD, we're going to be talking about here. We're going to officially get into coaching and such, but I think the coaching has already begun, right? Because part of this here is you're looking at for what's coming next for you, and I think the reason I wanted to put out these four things is to like just kind of call out like this is your playbook. This is your playbook for success. Do
right.
these four things: be you, be inquisitive, know what you want and ask for it, or at least to set up the stage for that, and then make sure that you're being open in a way with people who are also like ready to receive you. I think that last part, as we start moving into the diversity conversation a little bit, I think that last part is an important part because it actually ties in pretty much with this here. I am finding now for the level that I'm playing right now, and for the level of the other outliers, pioneers, mavericks that enter my world. And to be honest, I think anyone can be an outlier, pioneer, maverick. It just depends on whether or not they want to right now, or like when they want to do it through their career or whatever it is, right? But I think we all have that. But what I find is that at a certain point, there's almost a switch. The switch goes from like, I was really lucky that this person accepted me, to actually, there's a lot of really great things about me. And look, I create space for cockiness and arrogance because I think that honestly, it's not bragging if it's true. And I like to really own what you've accomplished. There's a lot that you coming into any organization or you into any kind of project has to offer, because not only are you diverse, but you're willing to bring that diversity to the table. So when I think about like who's lucky here, I don't like at this point of the game, I don't consider you to be the lucky one in the same kind of way. I feel like they're lucky to be around to be able to get what you're offering. And I want to put that out there, and I want to say that in your presence for you specifically here, because there's an element of humility that please don't lose it, right? And there's something about you and the way that you do things that any organization from Bose to any of the other things that you've done, right? They get the opportunity to have you be a part of it, to have you bring all your varied experiences, to have you bring all your uniqueness, your humility, your caring, your thoughtfulness, your fun, like all that, your unique perspectives, all that into the situation. And so I want to call it out. I'll call it out on your behalf here, where it's like, look, there's something really important and special about what you do. And I want to honestly, I want to give you back some of the power as it goes on there, where it's like there is a great amount to you, And look, we're having this conversation not because you're lucky, but because when we met, you showed up in a way that I said, this guy is someone I want in my life. This guy is someone that I would love to introduce to other people that I want in my life. This guy is someone that I want to spend time trying to make sure that I am being in service with. And I'm not even going to just be in service with him with just a natural conversation or a normal conversation or a catch-up conversation. We're going to create a deep, powerful container that can actually support this person here. Not because of luck, but because you showed up in a way that was that like I could see and I wanted it to step into. So I just wanted to put all that out on the table. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, and then like let's move into what's next.
No, I'm in complete agreement. I think we had one very, very extended conversation in probably like a million zillion Facebook chats so far. But I like I said, I guess at some point after going through so many years of, I would call it challenges, because you're constantly trying to validate yourself and prove why you exist in the way that you exist to people. You tend to get a little impatient. You say, especially when you meet new people, saying, he's good to know, he's good to have as a WhatsApp connection or a LinkedIn connection, but that's about it. If I see him running around in a pub, I'll probably share half a glass of beer with him, but that's about it. As opposed to meeting somebody like you and say, we chatted for what, an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, and we were originally scheduled for about 45 minutes or something, where you said I only have 45 minutes to spare, but we ended up chatting for a very long time until such time that my wife called and said, "Where the hell are you?" Do you remember that? I said, "Oh shit, now I gotta go."
This is the official end. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, so I guess one tends to draw that line very carefully now, especially when it is people like you and me. We're saying, all right, this is the guy that I want to put energy towards, because I know it's a very smooth flowing conversation, versus, it's good to know this guy. I'd probably say hi to him if I see him at a pub at Chimes, but that's about it. Let's just keep it at that. So, it's been a fairly comfortable and a fairly smooth flowing conversation when it comes to you and me as well. So,
Yeah, and I thank you for that. I think that there's I thank you for calling that out. I thank you for calling that out, because it's like, a lot of times it might feel that we're alone. We're different. We're unique. We're outliers. We're pioneers. We're Maverick.
Yeah.
Like I just wish there were more people out there like us. And it's like, the thing is that there are, and what I'm hearing from you is that you're like, okay, at this point in your life, you're always friendly. That's also a part of who you are.
Yeah.
But it's like where do you choose to put the energy into to continue to grow and to continue to cultivate? And there's an element here that you had said, to validate and to prove why you exist. And I feel like with us here, that's not the, I don't know how to describe it, but I have no intention, I have no desire to know you from that perspective. There's no need to validate. In fact, I would be honest, if there was a feeling of I need to validate and prove why you exist with me, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, because I have a hard time with the 95% that have the wall up, right? I feel, and I want to call that out, because that is in a lot of times a way that we get that kind of barrier.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So one of the things that is a pain point for me in my life,
let's go there.
My family, is that they always tell me, why do you drop everything you're doing to go help any random person? And I have always found it a little difficult to tell them that I do it because I can. I'm the person, if someone comes to me for help, if I can do it, I will tell them that, yes, this is the extent of what I can do. Let me try and do that. Or say, I'm sorry, I can't help you in it. And this is, again, some conversation from, going back to our conversation, where I find it very difficult when people say, yes, we will help, but then they don't help. Yeah. It's very easy for you to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help for this reason. I wish I could, but I can't. I can, however, help you in this if there is an alternative, or just say no. It's okay to say no. It's not okay in my books to say yes, but then not deliver on it. or not pick up the phone, for instance. So that's just who I am. And I've always been, more often than not, I get stuck in these situations where I've gone out of my way to help someone, and I've needed advice from that person in the future. And I've just asked for advice, not for a favor, for advice. What do you think? And I've not gotten that advice back as well, because they've been too busy, as things are. As you're well aware, people are always very busy for some very strange reason. So it hurts me a lot. And which is why I said that now I'm at the stage where I would rather only put my energy where I know I can actually make a little bit of a difference. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who flies for SQ, and she called me the other day saying, she has a colleague who's a mother of two sons who's going through cancer. This is the second time it's come back, and it's come back in a big way, and she had to go through a major surgery. And she said, hey, you're the only person I could think of who's actually gone through this. She's a single mother. Do you mind going and having a chat with her? Would you like to meet her? I said, I would love to meet her. The question is, would she want to meet me? Because I said, me, I would tell things as it is. I would obviously tell things as to how we went through it with my mom or with my sister, or, and what we did to overcome it. A lot of people are very uncomfortable hearing things which are already going in their head from other people, because they get spooked as saying, how the hell does this guy know what I'm thinking of? But they don't really put it out there. So the simplest way is to completely disconnect and have a sense of resentment against that person. How dare he say something out loud when this is something that's only going through in my head, and it's only supposed to be for my head and not for public consumption. So do you know what I'm trying to say here?
Oh yeah. Well, let me say this. As you're saying that, what comes up for me, I hear yes and no, right?
Yeah.
Because as you're saying, there's a lot of different examples that are coming to mind in the work that I do. I tend to set different agreements. I think if in our last conversation we'll come out and I'll say, I hide nothing to hold nothing back. Is that okay? I'm here to serve rather than please. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You remember that? And it's like, so because you're right. Like I find, like for me, there's elements of how do we create the space such that people can actually be willing to hear. And I love how you said, like, the thoughts that are already going on in their mind, the things that they already know, but to be able to put it out there, things that have been private for them, and to be able to have an open conversation about it, so that it's out on the table and we can actually explore and move forward from there. So in the work that I do, like that absolutely comes up there. And it's really interesting because I've also found that there are some people who really appreciate it, who are like, this has been stuck in my head. I've just been thinking about it. Or I thought, like, to be able to now talk about it with you, now I have been able to look at it from a different perspective. Like, that's a lot of my coaching clients, right? They're like, I'm trying to understand what's in my head, this thing that I thought was only me, right? Some people, it's just useful to know that they're not alone. And they're like, oh, okay, wait, I'm not broken. I'm not fixed. I'm not the weird one anymore.
Correct.
And so, like,
but I think the majority of these guys are the guys who completely close up because they're scared. How does this guy know what's in my head? And they kind of tend to close up as opposed to accept it. So
can I ask you a question here? Right.
Sure.
And I'm stepping now onto a bit of my edge. So I'm coming now from this part of the conversation going forward. I love to come in from a place of service here, right? I don't need to pull out anymore from like your journey perspective. Let's see where you are right now and help you move forward. Is that okay if we shift into that
sure.
area there? Cool. So one of the questions that comes up, because my general thing is, like, it turns out that when you're able to be you, when you're able to be inquisitive, when you're able to say what you want, and when you have people who are willing to receive you as you are, great things happen for you. Like, just great things, like, and you don't have to really try, right? So right now, what I'm curious about is, like, how do we create those opportunities for you so that it isn't just on the other person to happen to be the right kind of person, but like you can kind of almost with a snap of your fingers create that kind of space for yourself, or create that kind of relationship to help people realize, like, hey, this is how JD plays. And either I'm out, it's not the way I want to play, or yeah, I'm definitely in, or this isn't right for me right now, but I'll come back to this, or I know someone else that finally needs that has been looking for a JD. Like your wife met me and she knew that she needed to connect the two of us, right? And she met me and she just like offered it, you know, and that's like so I'll be a little curious here. Have there been times when you've said things and kind of said what's on someone else's mind, that internal part there, where they have been able to receive you? Can you tell me about one time when that has happened?
I'll give you, I think I discussed this with you, but I'll give you the latest example. So very randomly, I got connected to this organization called the Center for Nonprofit Leadership, which is next to where your co-working space is. And this lady met me and she said, why do you want to, so it's essentially what they do is they place professionals as a board of director in nonprofit charities in Singapore. And I said, listen, I've been working for so many years and I've kind of helped scale up businesses. Let me see how I can help nonprofit charities. I know it's not paid. It's a free gig. But if I can help someone out, why not? And I met this arts charity, and their biggest problem was they're husband-wife couple, right? Phenomenal people, phenomenal music, that's what they create. But given that they're a Singapore-based charity, they're not very well known in Singapore, because to actually earn revenue, their biggest opportunities outside of Singapore and, in these big music festivals and things like that. So they're very well known in the global scale, but not very well known in Singapore. So when I met them, they were first very hesitant in terms of what a board of directors should do, because they've had these board of directors who've been half and half, so to speak. So I got down to them and I got a lot of rap from my wife saying, why are you spending your Saturdays, your Sundays with them? I said, they need help. And we got down to the level of actually pushing them to get out of their shell, reorganize themselves, look at themselves as an organization and as a family where they have to actually support the people who work for them. I said, those guys may be working for you for free right now, but they're not going to continue doing so for a very long time. Everyone needs to take some money back home at some point, and including you guys. And they said, yes, we do. I said, so that should be a first and foremost priority, is to how do you retain this great talent that you have? And it was a lot of Sundays, a lot of weekdays, a lot of deliberations, a lot of Excel sheets going from me telling them how they should organize and pushing them for something that's called a major company grant, which is given by the National Arts Council. The National Arts Council had told them that, no, you don't qualify because you're too small. I said, they haven't said no. They've just said you don't qualify because you're too small. What if tomorrow you're big enough to qualify? Because they haven't refused you. They just said you do not qualify because you're too small. I said, read between the lines. So I actually made them do a complete reorganization of how they're structured to make a proper corporate presentation and go present nonetheless. And they said, when they saw a plan, they just said, we need 15 minutes. And they gave us 15 minutes to tell them what our plans was for the future. And that was it. They did not let us explain. They don't let us do anything. So they came back and said, they came back obviously dejected, saying, we don't know what's going to happen. 15 minutes is not enough time. I said, did you do what I told you to do? They said, yes. Did you give them the plan? They said, yes. I said, let it be. I said, even if they do not give you something, they now know that you're a force to be reckoned with, because their only statement to you before this was that you're too small. I said, you're no longer too small. As luck would have it, they got accepted into that program. They're now been given a full-fledged charity status. They're now called a major company, and they've got the grant. So, and needless to say, they're over the moon. So now they come to me and say, hey, this has worked out. What next? Can we get a PR firm, because we want to put our name out there in Singapore, and we want to push, and we want to do this, and we want to make music, and so on and so forth. And I said, of course you can. I said, do it the smart way and you can do it. So having that one message from them the other day when they got to know about this, they got an email from the NSC at about 10 at night, and at 12 o'clock I had an SMS. Obviously I was sleeping, so I saw it the next day. It's that, hey JD, thank you so much. I would like to tell you that we've been accepted into the NSC Major Company Arts program. They've given us X amount of dollars for the first year. It's way more than what we were getting. So they got about 5 times the money that they were on last year. So that was the phenomenal jump that they got. Saying it wouldn't have been without you. You pushed us. We can't begin to thank you enough. And it was just that one message that kind of made my day that day. I said, you just made a difference in somebody's lives. So, when you talk about this magic happening and how you can affect it, it can happen at any point of time. Yeah. And what that's kind of gone into is that suddenly that word has spread, that this guy kind of turned them around in a few months. And now I have the lady from CNPL saying, hey, why don't you meet this person? I think you can really help them. Or why don't you meet this charity? I think you can really help them. And she's trying to set up these meetings for me, and I'm going to meet these people. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Firstly, JD, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Kudos to you. Let me acknowledge you for like it feels like you found a place through this year to allow some of the the unique ways that you look at things to come to life, and to have people who are willing to receive that and bring that out to life. There's a lot that I want to acknowledge you on, and I'm actually going to hold back in this moment, and I'm going to ask you a question here. All right. So at this point, I'm going to hide nothing to hold nothing back. Is that okay with you?
Of course.
Okay. I'm coming from a place of service rather than a place of pleasing. Is that okay with you?
Perfect.
All right. And I have a track record of having life-changing conversations. And at this point in my life, I refuse to have anything less than that. Are you open to the possibility of this being a life-changing conversation?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. And the last one here, this one I know it's going to be probably pretty difficult, but I'm going to put it in for a conversation. I love to make sure that I love to have a brag zone around us. And in the brag zone, you don't have to worry about humility. You don't have to worry about coming off cocky or arrogant. You're allowed to get messy. Just like I want to be able to work with you on your edge and help you get to whatever the next level is for you, rather than being in the middle and help you get to your next step. Because I realize, like, when I talk to you and the things that you do, like, you at your next level just consistently help so many other people. You're a natural giver. And so I want to make sure that we're able to take you to that place that can be given on the next level, and still help you replenish your energy along the way. Because I'm hearing that energy, like that cycle, that reciprocity of like, I need to be filled. It could be as simple as an SMS text saying thank you, but I need to be filled. Are you okay with being in a brag zone as well?
I have never been in a brag zone. I think most people call me cocky, including my friends and some family. They say that, you come across as being arrogant. But like you said, I'm not being arrogant because I've done this stuff.
Yeah.
So I after hearing a lot of people's comments, I now don't really tell people what I do. So I just shut up unless it's completely relevant to that moment. Because like you said, it's a fine line. And because most people don't understand that I could have done it, it comes across as me trying to be very braggy and me trying to show them down. But that's not the case.
Yeah. So here's it looks like we got disconnected. Okay, we're back here. So here's the thing. I hear where you're coming from, and that happens, and I get it. In this conversation right here, right, we're creating new rules for us, and to know that anyone that's listening to this, anyone that comes in, will actually get the benefit of you just choosing up here. I'm not worried about anything here. Like, you can't come off as arrogant to me. You cannot come off as cocky to me. Like, I'm just letting you know that.
Right.
And I'm inviting you to, like, this is not the conversation. You're having a 5% conversation using our language here, right? Sure. So are you willing in this conversation to not have to hide those things out there, and that all of it is relevant if it's relevant? Cool.
Absolutely.
Right. So here goes the question. The direct question that's on my mind is this: you spend your time going out and you help so many other people, right? And you go out of your way to help, and you do all these things. You're an incredible giver, and it doesn't always come back to you in return. And that's an energy area there. If in this conversation, I can go out of my way to help you, right? What would we talk about that would make the biggest impact for you?
Well, I guess at this life stage, or
In this
uh
current moment, be present
yeah,
in the moment.
yeah,
Be
in
present
this
in the moment.
today, which is whatever, the 29th of May, I would
Even
say.
beyond that, JD, I'm going to go down to your thing. Be present in the moment, in this very second.
So in this very second, I guess the biggest um, thing that I can take away from our conversation would have to be, how do I better sell myself? Because I find that that's challenging. And again, double backing on the how much of me talking about what I've done is too much, you know? And I realized that I need to have a filter in terms of, all right, this is the only information that needs to go at this stage, and I need to put brakes here and kind of hold myself back, as opposed to me just going and letting the floodgates open and saying, hey, this is who I am. Because I'm finding that um, information overload is not very good for a lot of people. People can't handle that. So the best way that they fight this information overload is to completely close all the doors and windows and seal them shut. So, my biggest takeaway in this conversation would be to how to control those floodgates.
Okay. Questions for you. Thank you. Let's play. You down to play a little bit? Like, I have no idea where this is gonna go. Like, I don't need it. Like I just want to just for a while do what you do for other people. To be inquisitive and to be curious and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Is that all right? Cool. So the question that's first on my mind is like, why is it so important to you that the people who to gain, I'm going to say it this way, like to sell yourself towards the people who like close the doors, the people who can't handle it? Because it's come up a bit in our conversation where it almost feels like we focus on the 95 versus the 5. So why is it so important to you that the 95?
Well, for a very simple and a very practical reason. I'm looking to make a change in my career. And most of the people that I go meet for that particular change are more or less in the 95%.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I need to figure out how can I relate a little bit more to them, because I find that it's that information overload that's kind of being a little bit of a blockage for me at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can feel myself already knowing I'm probably going to mess with your mind a little bit here. Just giving you a heads up. You had this, we didn't get back into this. I don't want to go backwards in our conversation. I want to just only go forward. But you had mentioned like diversity and inclusion and how it's like they say that they want diverse candidates, but then they can't handle it, more or less. Like the person brings their diversity to the table and they can't go. So I am curious still. Like I get it from a practical perspective. 95% of the people that you tend to meet, the people who it's like 95% of them end up this is how they end up working. And a part of me is it's like, would you, if you had to be honest to yourself right now, would you be happy and fulfilled working in that kind of an environment where even just in their initial conversations and the initial who you're being and the way that you start the whole thing up, you're already too much for them?
Okay, so I wouldn't say it's a question of being ready or not. I would say it's getting a foot into the door.
Yeah, no, it's a different question. It's a different question. The question I asked is, would you be happy? I know that you can do it. There's not an element of of functionality or possibility there. I just want to just check in with you. It's like, I hear what you're asking for, and I have the ability to get people exactly what they want. And I just want to make sure that, like, is this actually what you want? So I just want to, I'm just being curious really quickly here.
So here's where I come back to the practicality of it. I come back to the fact that, okay, I need this. So if for me to do that, and given the fact that I am the giver, can I give myself this? I don't know what to call, but can I give myself this little ball of energy that I bend more towards their style and less towards my style, purely because it's more practical for me to be in that gang at the moment.
So
right? That's my only thought. Now, coming back to this again, before you shoot another question.
Yeah.
When we coming back to when we talk about diversity and out of the box thinking, we had this conversation where I gave you certain instances. I would not want to say it over here for reasons.
Yep.
But I went to these places which are known for being diverse, being completely out of the box, being different, getting in people who are different. And I realized that they're not that different. Yes, they like to have this outer shell and have this advertising campaign, so to speak, that, oh yeah, we're different and we're out of the box thinkers and this and that, but they're actually not. They're the same cog. It's it's the same sort of mechanism that's in place everywhere.
Okay, so let's play with that. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying there. Yeah, there's an element here that the two things that are coming, and I know you from our last conversation. Like, you mentioned that you launched like e-commerce in India, right? I know that you're one that has launched in multiple markets across multiple different types of products throughout your career, right? I'm curious, when you're launching a product in a new market, right? What's the process that you use for that?
Well, it completely depends on the product. Obviously, when you launch a product, there is one set of international guidelines that one has to adhere to. But then, that being said, it has to always be localized to the target audience, right? So let me give you an example. I will not go with Bose, but I would go with Harry Winston, just to kind of put things into perspective for you. Harry Winston, very traditional, ultra luxurious, very, very old diamond jewelry brand. Their guideline to us when I was launching Harry Winston in India was, this is what works in New York. These are the names that work in New York. These are the names and faces that we replicate around the world. As simple as that. Now, when you put that into the South Asian context, for instance, or even the Asian context, it doesn't make any sense because no one knows who these people are, right? If I have to convince you to buy a product which costs $60,000, you would say, sure, but are people like me buying this? No. Who's that person? I don't know who that person is. She may be someone, in the States, but she's not one amongst my own gang within this space. So how do you tweak that yet stay in the box? Now, when I talk about being diverse and when I talk about out of the box thinking, in today's context, in a very practical standpoint, the out of the box thinking does not necessarily mean going out of this, let's say, if this is the box, going out of the glass and going to the pitcher of water and doing something there. It means that how versatile are you within this space inside and not just stay dead in the center. So with Harry Winston, one of the things we did was we started doing polo matches. And we said, fine, we can't do advertising. Let's do polo. Let's bring in celebrities to endorse a product using polo. They're both regal things to do. They're both stuff that's done by the rich and famous, and let's try and promote that. It was never done in anywhere in the world before. We started it there, and it was a big success. So you're still staying in the mold, but you're kind of pushed the boundaries, so to speak, and figure out how can you distinguish yourself by still staying in those boundaries? And when I say out of the box, that's what I mean. You can't really jump out of the box, go to the next door neighbor and start advertising something, but that doesn't work for anyone. So, but when you say out of the box and staying and out of the box, it's either you're dead in the center or how much of versatility do you have? So when I say out of the box, it's the versatility and not just staying dead in the center and doing stuff.
Awesome. So like bring this into your current situation right now, like you looking to say like, hey, look, I'm looking to do something different. Can you describe the box to me?
Yeah, box can be anything.
Well, no, specifically with like in the context of you're looking into different options right now, right?
Yeah.
So like what's the box there? Like that would like I would love to just like you've launched multiple times in these things, and you said there's international guidelines, but then there's localization, right? The international guidelines to me feels like that's generally the box and the way that things differently go, and then so on and so. So I'm just trying to translate some things that have already worked for you to see like, okay, if you were going to launch your product in this market, right? And like what would it be? The product is you in this case, right? And the localization is perhaps a different industry or a different organization or something like that. I would love to understand from you, like if we're just going to translate all these over here, what would be the box that you would say most people are playing dead in the center
on? It's a little difficult for me to kind of put things in. So very, very loosely put, I guess I'm struggling as an outsider in Singapore at the moment, where people say you do not have Singapore experience.
Okay.
Where I come up to say, hey, I have been working in the Asian markets for the last 7 or 8 years. I may not be based here, but this is what I've been doing. So it's not just product launches, it's also going and expanding business, right? And when I say that, I said what you also get, or where my out of the box thinking comes in, is I've also done the same in North and South America. I've also done the same in Europe because I've worked there in the past in my previous roles. So I come in with working in different parts of the world, or practically the entire world. So I've worked in Brazil, I've worked in DC, as you're aware. I've worked in Geneva in the past, I've worked in the Middle East, worked in Vietnam and things like that in different capacities, in different roles. I've just not worked there being physically present in Singapore. Now when people talk about this, people say, oh, you've not been based in Singapore. I said, that's just a physical base. I said, when you talk about work, you talk about the complete length and breadth of the work and where that's happened. And there's ample amount of experience and results to support the length and breadth of work in these various parts, which you would end up doing in any case, even if you're physically based here or if you're not physically based here. So that is, I guess, where this box versus out of the box sort of challenge is coming in at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting that. And I thank you for making that real here. And there's no part of me that's like, you're going to leave here and you're going to definitely know. But my whole thing is to give you a few more perspectives as to how you might be able to look at what you're doing and play it a little bit differently. So I'm going to continue on with the metaphor of the product launches part. Your ultimate question was, how do I sell myself and how much about me should I talk about myself and things like that. But I think your ultimate goal is to get into a role in an organization that challenges you, that allows you to bring your magic to the table. And so the question right now, that's thinking about the example you gave for the jewelry company here, where I'll have to find like, what's the versatility within it? So what's your polo match? Because you had mentioned the word practical. You're like, I want to be practical about this. I'm like, practical for you, it's not, to me, like practical for you does not feel like it's practical for everyone else. Like there are other people I would suggest different things, but like I cannot practically say, send a message on Twitter. I cannot practically say, turn your car over and go into like this random business. I would not practically say like, go have a polo match and then like go from there. Right. Yeah. It's part of the reason why I slowed down on that part of the conversation there, because what I'm hearing from you is that there's a certain formula that uniquely gives you a chance to shine. And for the 5% of people who can actually handle what you have to offer, who not only want you to get a job done, but actually appreciate and celebrate and value the way that the unique perspective you have, there's a process that is practical for you, JD, but it will be impractical for everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are elements in here around like, how do I sell myself and things like that, where I'm like, it feels like the wrong question at this, like for you, and like with the experience that you've had, with the life that you've lived, with the way that you give and things like that, and with the energy that you put out and also isn't coming back to you in the same way. The question for me is not how do you sell yourself? How do you make your, like, how do you position yourself as a seller? But instead the question in my mind is like, I would love to see you as the buyer. Right. So it's like, so like what would change? What would be different if you went out into the world, into this part here, knowing that you've been trying from the place of, I want to sell myself. I'm going to try and figure out, what do you need me to know? How do you need me to be here? To take on a different, lens on it. It's like, I'm the buyer. I actually have a lot to offer. The next organization I'm with needs to be able to provide X, Y, and Z to me. It needs to fill me up with energy. It needs to do that there. And play more from the place of like, what's really practical for you, because it's not the same LinkedIn path. It's not the same, like playing with the 95% right now feels like it just doesn't seem to, like, that's not what I would maybe define as a practical path for you. Like for me, it's like, how do you find your 5%? How do you get in front of those 5%? And how do you, start bringing in the polo mats? When you bring the polo mats, I see the celebrities come into you versus you go into the celebrities. It's just like, you switch the game. You switch the game there, and I feel like you trying to sell yourself is it's part of the reason why I've been going around that question, because I'm like, you've never sold yourself, and every time you didn't sell yourself, it led to this really amazing opportunity for you. So, given this year, I'd love to just, like, would you be open to exploring a little bit more around like what might it look like if you were instead showing up as a buyer in this year, and who would you need to be? Who would you need to be, and where would the people who could buy what you're offering, where would those people be?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm I guess trying to find at the moment.
Okay. Well, like to the best of your abilities right now in this place here, right? If you're gonna be versatile within the box here, right? Like rather than you trying to sell that you have done multiple product launches, you understand the Asia region, North and South America, you've been in Brazil, worked in all these different places, right? Rather than trying to sell that, if that was like, given that was the part where you started from, it's like, given that I've done this here, what is your organization, or what is this next role going to offer, or something like that? Like, if you took that approach instead, how might things be different for you?
What's to say that I haven't tried that approach yet?
So tell me more about it.
Well, I think what, and I'll give you again a very practical sort of mindset.
Yeah.
Each time I've tried this approach, it's come across as either being a little too ambitious, or again being cocky.
Okay.
Saying, we are trying to hire you for role X. Concentrate on this. Let us worry about what happens after and things like that, or where you've been. So again, it comes back to people not understanding where I'm coming from and why I'm saying that. If someone understands it, they would say, hey, this is our trump card, because here's this guy who we're getting, who has ample amount of knowledge about how stuff gets done in other places. He can be part of our core, think tank internally, and it'll help us. That's the way I would look at it if I was interviewing someone who came and spoke to me like that. I said, sure, come on board, but this is your main role. What I want you to do as a secondary role is help out these guys and give in your ideas as well, because at the end of the day, it's one company, and the company's role or the company's motto is to grow. So that's my thought process.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people think like me.
Yeah.
So it comes across as being overly ambitious or overly cocky.
Okay. So thank you for that. And I really do get that. Like, I don't want to sweep that underneath the rug at all. Like, I really get it. And being out here in Singapore, I also know that it's not like a, a cavalier, Western like attitude, right? Don't like, I'm not coming into this being like, you should just be you. And no, that's not what I'm saying, right? What I am trying to see here is like, cause you just need one. Right. This would be different if you needed to get, hundreds of thousands of people to fall in line or to like come and support you. You really just need one here. Right. And so it's like with that in mind where I'm like, okay, given that it's just one, we can play a different game than we need to get we have to do it at scale. Right. And so a part of me is trying to see who might be the people, like how do you get into who might be the people, how do you get into conversations such that it doesn't come off as bragging. Like, a question that came to my mind is like, should you be applying for roles that are 2 or 3 levels than what you're applying for right now? Right? Higher, 2 or 3 levels higher, such that like, because when you gave me that example, it's like, well, we need you for this role and this particular thing. It's like, you might actually be playing at a higher level than you're giving yourself credit right now. And if that's the case, would that naturally, would the way that you're thinking and what you have to offer there be a natural fit there? So these are some of the dynamics that I'm playing with, which is just like, look, where can we find, like, how can we find a place, or how can we help you navigate towards a place, or make sure that other people know the game that you're playing, such that when they are making referrals for you, when they're looking to get you involved in different things, like, it's really great hearing a lot of your story and a lot of the great things that you've done in the various environments that you've done it in, right? Like, it's given me a chance to now say, okay, when an opportunity comes, I know where I can, like, how I can be of service in that place, in that way.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's around like, I'm trying to see, and we may not get there here, and I have to let myself be okay with being open. It might just be something that we introduce and we let time play itself out. But I am interested in seeing, like, okay, if you're going to have that versatility, like, what's the polo match where everyone else says it needs to be advertising? You're like, no, we're actually going to like switch things around for me here. And it's not, and you might have already done it, but like, if this ends up being brainstorming, then let's let it be brainstorming. If it ends up being like, how do I sell myself? And now, like, I can put you in, there's some people I can connect you with who will help you, like, say, like, no, you need to say this, you need to say that, you need to say this. There's actually some people I can do that. That's not my forte. That's not something that I'm not good at helping people reduce who they are in order to be accepted by the majority. I'm really great at saying, how do we take you from being an outsider and get you to be an outlier within the group, but still in your own unique position. And so part of that outlier area comes to what we're talking about here. So I'll just be really curious from you here, and we may not. Yeah, I guess I'd be really curious about, like, where, like, it's that 5%. Those 5% companies, those 5% conversations, like being able to define what that is a little bit. And let's do it this way, just JD. Like, if someone was listening right now, right, who worked in the 5% in a company that would benefit from having you, that you really wanted to work at, that you yourself would consider a 5% company, and they themselves either work for a 5% manager or they themselves were a 5% manager, right? If someone was listening right now, how would they know that you're the right person for them?
Well, they'll have to meet me. So,
okay.
Meeting, I guess, is incredibly important. One of the other things that we did speak about is, because of this really incredible world that we live in, we are reduced to black and white. And by black and white, I mean, what's on your CV, or, what are the qualifications that you possess. And people don't take the effort of actually looking beyond it and having a simple conversation with someone. Because A, there's only so much stuff you can shove in a CV, right? Two, everybody puts a lot of crap on the CV, so I don't think anyone gives importance to the CV, and it's considered more of a brag than an actual achievement. That's my understanding, especially when you and me spoke about this, especially with the kind of cool stuff that I've done. I can't put everything on there. And if I do put on there, it just sounds like, what the hell is this guy talking about? How is it possible that he's done so many things?
Yeah.
And if you don't meet me, you'll never get to know, right? So
let's see this here as we wrap up in our conversation here, right? There are certain things that I get, and this is the part. This is why I create the brag zone, because it's really, really hard. You're like, I've done a lot of really cool stuff, and you've only even shared just like a small sliver of it. Like, there's a lot here that's out there. So and the question I ask myself is like, if an executive comes over to me and they tell me what they did for that day, like, like there's a level of coolness to it that like but that is like far beyond what I would normally do, but it wouldn't come off as arrogant or cocky. It's just like what they did that day, so there's an element of this here where like, and I'm still trying to discover it myself. I feel that like I'll figure it out. But like, if someone else was you who had your experience, what would make it not cocky for that person and just like a part of the conversation? Like, I think that like, I'm like, there's elements in there where it's like, you 10 years ago saying some of the things you're doing now might have been one thing, but you now at this level, there's just different things that now fit in the cocky range for you. Right. And so like, I am curious around, there's a curiosity around like, is there a way that we can reframe it to help to give you that? I almost think it's the energy in which it comes out, right? Because you've shared a lot of things here today that have not come off as cocky in the least. I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's usually they're like, oh, that's really cool.
That's also because A, this is our second conversation, and B, we're doing it face to face. Had this been a telephonic or a conversation that's happening, let's say email or the black and white zone, things would have been very different.
Okay, so here goes. So JD, I'm going to be the person that's here that's going to ask you to, like, I know that you're a giver. I'm going to ask you to give more, right? And this one comes out to service versus pleasing. My distinction here, right? It's like you've laid out all the things that like make you really successful. It's the face-to-face meetings. It's the being curious and all that stuff there, right? It's like, now it's like, how do we create that intentionally? And are you willing to go to do the uncomfortable thing, to be unconventional enough to say like, hey, actually, can we meet for coffee, or can we meet on Zoom, or whatever it is? Even if they suggest a phone conversation, like, the areas where you excel. And it's like, and like, what, like, I think there's a part of me that's just like, this here. How do we create those elements for you to have, for luck to come and join you? Right? Because right now it doesn't feel like luck is coming to join you, because like luck knows to meet you in a different arena. Yeah. Luck knows to meet you somewhere differently. And you said they have to meet me. I actually wrote that down and I boxed it. And what's going on for me is like, can we, at this level that you're at, can we expand what meeting you looks like? I think people have in this video, they've gotten a chance to meet you in a way that I got a chance to meet you.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this, like, with that, they have to meet me. Are there, and this might be something to take out of this conversation and just kind of play with, but are there different ways that they can meet me? Like, would a like you've done other podcasts, you've been around with other people. Like, is there a message? There's something that you can own as your own body of work that allows them to get a chance to meet you before meeting you. Are there other ways that people can meet you? That really, I guess the thing in my mind is like, it's like in your box, like to have people come meet you in your box as opposed to always trying to meet them in theirs. And and to allow that to be a part of it here, because I guess the thing is, like, it's like right now it feels like you're playing their game, and their game is full of rules and ways to get points and all these things that just naturally go against yours. And for the last decades of your life, you haven't been playing that game.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so throughout this conversation, you're asking me to help you be better at playing that game. And I'm like, if you came in, you'll enter in the minor leagues. Best case scenario, you're entering in the minor leagues. Like, how can we help you keep playing the game that you play and figure out what that next level is for you here, and who the other players are, who the other all-star players are, and how you can show up so that those all-star players are like, oh, okay, he actually, like, he plays at a level that really challenges me. So I would like, what you do is you think. If you're going to be honest, you think, like, so like, where's the all-star game where thinking is the thing that's necessary, right?
Right.
And I'm happy to just, like, have another conversation with you. I'm taking you in my consciousness, like, when we're out there to kind of play with. I know some of the things you've done, even the things you shared here, are still incredibly cool to me. I see kind of how you think about things, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, there's certain companies that might have opportunities and job openings, but, like, honestly, like, they're just not ready for them yet.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not ready for them yet. And I don't mind being one of the people to say that to you, where it's like, you have a lot to offer. So I would look into, it might be fun for you to just explore, what might Meet and Me look like now? I've like, how else can I do this? How else can I help people know about this? Perhaps it's you sharing from a thought leader perspective what it's like to launch products in multiple different companies. Perhaps it's you sharing from a thought leader perspective how things are both different and similar, like across different regions, or how you're able to localize, or whatever it is. But there might be something here where it's like, look, you're the leader in this case here. And for someone to bring you in, it might be coming from a different point of view. So I would think, put some thought to that. See if that's an interesting question for you to ask, to play with, to see, like, how else can they meet me? I know it needs to be face to face. Nowadays, I set up a podcast. I'm having conversations. I'm constantly, like, now just meeting people face to face, but virtually, because I know that if someone's going to be a client, be a part of my world, or anything like that, they need to have an experience of Nemo. So I'm just creating these experiences, and
Right.
they're on my terms. I don't go to networking events. Networking events are, like, the worst. Like, if I see a panel for 4 people, I'm like, I can't do it, because I'm going to spend an hour and a half just sitting there next to the person I actually want to talk to. So like, as we wrap up here, I love to leave you with that as a thing to think in terms of, like, where else, like, how else can I have them meet me? How can I be the buyer such that the 5% are like, okay, most 95% of the people cannot do what we need, but we need this unconventional thinker who's willing to take risks, who's willing to show up as themselves, who comes from a place of curiosity, who's able to just, like, who can give a lot without expecting too much in return, because we don't really have right now. Like, but at the same time, we know how to fill this person. Like, all those things there, that changes you, so that, like when they talk to you, they're like, you're the one and only person you're the person we've been missing.
Right.
You're the person we've been missing. And
Yeah.
and with that, I will also connect you with one person that I know who I think would be really great at helping you do some of what you're saying there around, like, okay, I'm also in Singapore. Like, how do I navigate that, and so on and so forth. So there's one person that I can connect you with as well. She's someone that I meet with on a regular basis, who helps me keep the aspirational, and she helps me marry the aspirational with some other elements right now too. Right. It just depends on, like, she can get you what you want. I feel very confident she can get you what you want, or what you say you want. I'm just not sure if it's actually what you would want.
Right.
So you can get you what you say you want, but I'm not necessarily sure it's what you would want. But I'll put you in touch with her, so that part of it also can get can get there, right? Like, I will just, we'll move that forward. So as we wrap up here for today, let's end here with, what is one takeaway? What's one insight that you would want to continue to evolve or continue to have play out in your mind, as a result of this conversation? It could have been from this last part of the conversation. It could have been back when we were exploring like how you ended up getting 4 jobs without ever really going through the traditional pathways. But what's one thing that you're like, you know what? I think this might be fun to continue to explore, or an insight that you've gotten from this call?
No, I think it's one thing that I've definitely, that's definitely been reiterated in my mind is to continue doing what I do. And because I like what I do. I mean, it does put a smile on my face. I like helping people. I like putting myself out there and things like that. But that being said, I think after hearing you, and this may be the exact opposite of what you're trying to convey here, but I think after hearing you, I'm a little bit more sure on my own part that I need to do a lot more in terms of learning about myself and how I react to situations versus people and things like that. Because, and I again come back full circle to the whole practicality of it. But yes, I think I mentioned this to you earlier when you asked me why did I do an MBA last year, and I said because I love to learn, I love to reinvent myself, and it's not easy at 37 to leave a job, get into a study mode where you're thrown in with these 20 other sharks who are as curious to learn as you are, or perhaps not. Perhaps they're just being sponsored by their companies, so they're doing it. But getting into that zone and also, reinventing yourself, putting strain on your mind again, trying to tell your mind that you may have known things in this way. It's now time to learn things in the other way. So it's just constant reinventing. And I think one of my biggest takeaways is that I should not stop reinventing myself.
Yeah.
So come what may, I guess the professional side of things are going to be what they are going to be. No one can change that. But I think the process of reinvention should always go on.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you choosing to reinvent yourself and to let us see what that process looks like for you here. I'm excited for you to, as you continue to give, what came up for me when you were talking about like I'm going to keep doing what I do, which is like to give there while also reinventing myself. The element of being willing to ask for what you need back in return along the way, right? And to be filled through the energy parts of it all to be able to keep you sustained. I want to say thank you very much. I'll like when we get done here, let's stay on the line for a little bit here because I'd like to share some of the contact with and such for some others here. But I want to thank you for being willing to play, for being willing to share the inner journey that accompanies the outer journey that we all see, the different accomplishments that you have and all the different cool things that you've done. And to know like it hasn't been easy for you and at the same time you're making it work in your real way. So thank you so much, JD. Thank you for giving us a chance.
My pleasure. Thank you for taking the 1.5 hours or 1 hour, 40 minutes almost. Your time.
Yeah, definitely. This is what we do. You give, and like literally at a certain point, I was like, I want to make sure that I give as well. So we'll play with that. All right. So I'll wrap up this conversation, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Yes,
bye. JD. Thanks so much.
Bye.